Welcome back to another episode of the Be the CEO of Your Life and Business podcast. This week, Laura and I are going to dive deep into the black hole of stress and talk about a couple of things. One being the theory that stress needs to be managed, otherwise you will not be able to create the health and wealth that you ever want to create. As a business owner, as a regular or ordinary person, you need to learn how to manage your stress better. And secondly, is we're going to share some tips and techniques that have been really helping us. We have had quite a stressful month, and it's just going to get more stressful based on other circumstances that are happening. Our kids are getting out of school, schedules are changing, and we talk a lot about how we have to try and figure out how to juggle everything, right? And juggle and toggle between mom, wife, being at home with the kids and dealing with all of their schedules, and then how that translates into our business and how we can run it and, the day-to-day business that we actually have to run. So we're always toggling back and forth between the two. And so we're going to share some of the tips and techniques that we have been employing because we both have been feeling it a lot lately, and really dive into what's been helpful for us. And, some helpful recommendations, I guess, for any listeners who feel like they're in the same black hole that we are right now.
And for anybody that thinks that we have it all together and don't really stress out like this, that would be incorrect. I've had people say that to me before, like, how do you keep it all together? You just don't see, right? What do we always say about social media and all this stuff? Like, you don't see the real behind the scenes. And last week and this week in particular, I have really felt like a crushing amount of stress, exhausted today. I had such a headache this morning. And so, I really have to take a step back and remember the techniques that I talk about in terms of managing stress, because and we have seen this happen to people. Stress can make you sick.
Yes.
Right. So, I'm always thinking in the back of my head, like, when I'm feeling like this, okay, I don't want to end up with some kind of stress-induced physical or mental condition. Right.
Yes.
So I have to be really mindful of how I'm managing my stress so that I don't make myself sick. Last night, I couldn't sleep. I woke up with a headache today. I made sure that I got up this morning and got my workout in, because that's the one thing that keeps me sane. But I've really felt borderline over the edge over the last 2 weeks. And so, we've been talking a lot about how to manage that, and, what are the habits that we're using at the moment that we can fall back on to really help take back control of your emotions, right?
Yeah, because I think the reason that this is hitting me so much is because you have to think that there's not one ingredient in a recipe that makes the ultimate item that you're trying to make, right? So if you think of it in that term, and I hear this a lot from a lot of professionals in personal development and in growth and big thinkers like this, that you can't just focus on one aspect and feel like that is going to be the end all be all to get you the results that you want. So, we always love talking about workouts and nutrition. You could do all the workouts in the world and all have the best nutrition in the world, but if you're not sleeping well, or if you're not managing your stress correctly, you're never going to move the needle on those results like the way that you could if you had that perfect winning combination of everything. So oftentimes people are like, okay, well, I can't sleep, so I'm going to stop drinking coffee at by 3:00 in the afternoon. Or, I feel like I'm, I don't know, not as active, so I'm just going to start moving more. But they're avoiding the fact that they have so much stress going on, and they're not willing to do that hard work. Because in my honest opinion, tell me if you're wrong, tell me if I'm wrong or if you disagree, I think that stress management is probably the hardest out of all four of those facets, like workouts, nutrition, sleep, or stress.
It's definitely and so last summer, I think it was August, do you remember I ended up with shingles?
Yes.
And me, the person who tries to manage stress the best that I can, right? Yeah. So I ended up with shingles, and I promised myself that was not going to happen again. And here I am again, deep into the baseball season and all the sports and everything we've had going on at work. And here I am again, feeling like I'm borderline about to get sick.
Mhm.
And so I definitely think, because I could work out in my sleep. My routine is so solid. In the
Yep.
morning, I do my workouts, I eat healthy, and stress management is by far the most difficult aspect for me.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I mean, the classic techniques that you hear from people are the meditations or breathing exercises. But I know even for myself that there are days when I'm like, this is just not helping me right now. Like my stress management technique should be, I need to get away from my desk and take a walk and take a lap around the block because I need to physically move. And I actually do know this about myself. I'm much more of like I need to get up and move away from a situation in order to de-stress as opposed to sitting in it. Like I don't like to just sit at my desk and just do like a meditation. I like to be away from that space and do it. And I feel like it makes like a bigger impact on me. So
See,
I
I'm the
know
opposite.
that I know you are.
Yeah.
We are the complete opposite. Laura could sit there and just like zone out, take deep breaths. I can't because I'm reminded of my physical environment right now. Like I need to get away from it.
Yeah. And I have actually been, speaking of the deep breaths, I've been using that, especially over the last week, to just slow my heart rate down and calm down.
Yeah.
I have had moments where I was just sitting at my desk and I just said, okay, I need to look away from the computer. I need to take a breath and I need to seriously just sit here and breathe. Because if I don't, I'm going to pass out.
It's a real, I mean, look, you have enough self-awareness to know too, like, you know, when your body's trying to send you that signal to be like, hello, Laura, are you there?
Yeah.
We need to take a break.
Yeah. And
that's important.
Yeah. And you know what? But sometimes you get so caught up in everything that's going on that you just like, you don't even remember to breathe.
Yeah.
It's like, you're not present enough to be aware that you should focus on your breath and that will calm you down.
Yes, totally.
And I was listening to, of course, my favorite Ed Milet this morning, and on Tuesdays, he does interviews, right? Which are like an hour. And then on Thursdays, he has started putting out solo episodes where he just gives his own advice. And today he was actually talking about, being present and how that can help you in every aspect of your life. And part of his practice has become breath work because it brings you back into the present moment. And for somebody like me, who is just go, go, go 24/7, and like it's hard for me to sit still. Sitting down and doing breath work actually takes a lot of mental energy for me to get myself to sit there for a couple minutes, put my phone to the side, look away from my computer, and just focus on the breathing. That's actually is that hard? That's really hard for me.
It's really hard for me too. That's why I said that before. Like I could lift heavy weights. I could follow the plans that you give me for any program. I could do that without a question. But when it comes to actually being still, it's like the hardest thing ever, because ever since I was younger, like I have always just been on the go. There's always been a running to do. We've talked about this before. We've always had like a running to do list in my brain where I'm like, oh, but if I'm sitting here, I could be doing this at the exact same time. And that makes me productive. But it doesn't, because you're still not giving yourself a break and you're not like detaching from the stressful constant motion that you're like looped on.
Yeah. And it's incredibly hard for me to sit and just breathe.
Yeah.
But that is so important and so good for you. And it's a way that one of the ways that I've been trying to manage my stress. Sometimes I think to myself, how is it humanly possible to handle all of these things? Like, I don't think our brains were meant to handle the overload that we have these days, right? True. So with the kids, with work, with like, it used to be like when I was growing up, there were no cell phones. So you got home and that was it. Like,
like work was over until the next day.
You were school was over. You were home. I was explaining to Matt, I think it was Matthew the other day, that like when I was growing up, if you wanted to talk to somebody outside of school, you would have to call your friend on the phone at home.
Yep.
And if they were not home, you could not speak to them.
Yep.
And he did not understand. He was like, what does
The
that even
whole
mean?
different universe.
And because of this society we live in now, where we're literally connected 24/7, I even started, my phone is glued to my hand without even thinking about it. I'm just always carrying it. So the last couple of days, this may sound ridiculous, but I put my phone in my bag. And I'm like, okay, get in the car, keep my phone in my bag. I usually put it on the charger in the middle of my car. I didn't even take it out. I left it in my bag, not looking at it, even though of course the text messages pop up on the screen in my car, but
yes,
the phone was in my bag. I put it to the side because I feel like something has to give. Something has to give. We are connected 24/7. And I think that on top of everything else, normal stress in life, can really just bring you over the edge.
Yeah. And I think this kind of segues into what I wanted to talk about too today, which is we are ultimately in control of our stress levels. Whether you
don't want to believe
you
it.
don't want
I
to believe
certainly
it.
don't.
And I certainly did not get it. I had to wrangle with this theoretically for quite some time. Like, I just remember like people getting sick in your family or things happening, and you're like, oh my gosh, that situation is so stressful. It's like, actually, that situation is completely neutral. It's how you're responding to it that is stressful, which I know, mind blown. I took a CLE actually on mindset for attorneys. And it was by far one of my favorite CLEs. If it ever comes up again, I'm going to take it again just because I absolutely loved it. And really, everything that's happening in life is neutral. How you respond to those situations is your response, and it's within your control because that's the choice that you make as to how you're supposed to respond to it. And now some of you are going to be like, that's so callous. Like, how could you think that, if my family member gets sick, that's not stressful on me? You very well might be manifesting stress as a result of it because you're thinking of so many different things that are happening and you're concerned and you're worried and you're sad and you're frustrated, but those are all emotions that are within your control. And coming off of that hypothetical for a second and just bringing it back to like your business, the stress that we have in our business is totally created on our own account. Like, there is nothing else and the good news, I think, to that too, is that it's created by us and it can be controlled and managed by us. So the reason that I bring this up is because oftentimes we can get ourselves into a trap of like blaming other people for the stress that we feel. And what's that going to really do? Except create resentment and anger and frustration. Again, more emotions, right? It's not going to get to the root problem or the solution. So my suggestion would be you need to focus on, what can I do? How can I change my choices, my emotions, my reactions in this moment to make the moment less stressful?
Yeah. And it's hard to actually control those things. But it really is within your control. And I have really, really been trying to work on this because I find that I am not present where I am. And so trying to realize and focus on the fact that I am in control has been helping me a little bit, but I've really been realizing over the last 2 weeks that it's like I'm physically here, but I'm mentally not here. Like, I was perfect example. I went to the bank this morning before work and I passed the bank and I'm sitting at the light,
which is really not that far. Like, it's comical. I'm laughing at her because I know exactly where it is. And I'm like, I would do that too.
I'm sitting at the light on the corner and the bank is on the right. And I was like, oh my God, I did not even realize where I was just driving. And it's because my brain is so overloaded that I'm not here. And I hate that feeling. I really hate it. So I've been, during the day trying to take tiny breaks. I literally set a reminder on my phone every hour that says, take a mental break.
Yeah.
And like, I was listening to Mel Robbins this week and she was diagnosed with ADHD. And she said she lives her life by reminders on her phone. Like, she sets reminders to remind herself to do things.
Yeah.
And so while it's actually sounds very sad that I need to put a reminder in my phone every hour, to go off to remind me to take a mental break. If that's what I have to do, then that's what I have to do.
Right. Like if that helps, then great. Like, I'm not judging you for it. I loved this philosophy from the first time that we heard it when Chalene Johnson had come out with some kind of either a YouTube video or a podcast about how she would take a break like every 50 minutes.
Yep.
At whatever she was doing, she would walk away from it. Brendan Burchard, another huge proponent of taking these breaks every so often, because from like a neuroscientific perspective, your brain needs to take a break. And if we're not taking that break, then we're not doing ourselves any favors. Like you can't keep thinking that like pushing yourself through to it and like, oh, I'm gonna feel better after I'm done with this. That is like the kiss of death. When you say, when I reach this, I will be happy. When I will reach that, I'm not going to be stressed, because by goodness, there's going to be something else that pops up, especially in business ownership, that's going to stress you out and take away, deflate the balloon that you were looking forward to blowing up.
And scrolling Instagram is not a mental break.
No, it is not.
And it may have been Chalene. I don't remember if it was Chalene Johnson that said this. It was somebody that said, even when you are scrolling social media, your brain is still making decisions as to whether to click on something, whether you like something,
so true.
Whether you like this one's outfit or you like this one's photo. Like your brain is still analyzing things and making decisions. When you are not looking at your phone or looking at something else and you're just sitting there focusing on your breathing, you're not making all those decisions and judgments.
Mm-hmm.
So taking it, while I love a good scroll on Instagram, and I typically do it at night, while I'm laying in bed before I go to bed, I'll just like look around. But that's not a mental break.
No,
during the day.
Right? It's not. And for me, the biggest, I think, wake up call. I had a conversation with Olivia not that long ago, and she said something like to me about how I needed to put my phone away. Now, she's 6.5, and she recognizes that. And then, of course, she did go on to say that my husband was the one that used his phone more than I did out of the two of us. So that made me feel a little bit better. But truly, it made me realize that I'm like, wow, okay. When I was growing up, my parents were on the phone when they were on the phone talking to my grandparents.
On
for like
the landline.
Yeah, on the landline with like the cord wrapping through the house. Okay. Right. Until it was cordless. But now to think that my kids see this, where I'm just looking down at my phone all the time. Now, listen, I am pretty good at communicating with them of when I need to be on the phone because something for work has come up.
Yeah.
And even with Joey, I've gotten very good about saying like, look, I need to grab my phone. I'm not, trying to be rude, but I have to deal with this. Or like, I have a call coming in. Something's happening at a walkthrough right now. I need to talk to the agent. So those are moments that I can feel okay with and not feel so guilty about, but it's the mindless stuff, because guess what? It's a habit, just like everything else.
It is totally a habit.
It is a habit. There are times where I sit down at my desk and I look at my Apple Watch and I'm like, why am I even looking at it? Oh, because it's become a habit. It's literally.
Have you ever looked at the number of times you pick up your phone in a day?
I have not done that. I have not done that in so long. I would be appalled, I'm sure.
Last week I sometimes look at it just so I can see, how many times am I mindlessly picking up my phone during the day? It was a couple hundred times.
It's insane.
It was like 237.
Oh. No judgment, because I'm sure I'm up there too, right alongside you.
Oh my Lord.
Yeah.
I don't even remember picking up my phone that many times.
I mean, we use it as a tool for work.
Right.
There's a lot of that we can accomplish from our phone, which is the beauty of technology, right? But the downside to it is when it becomes that habit where it's interrupting your life and you're not setting appropriate boundaries. Yeah. And it's also impacting the relationships of other people around you, right? Like my kids did nothing to deserve my lack of attention and my sticking my face in my phone. And if they're trying to talk to me while I'm sitting on my phone, well, what gives me the right to get upset with them about that? So you have to be a little more introspective. And I think that the point I was making about not blaming other people, I would really encourage you to just try it this week. When something stresses you out, really stop and think about it. Just even if you just do it once this week and start to get introspective of like, why is this stressing me out? Is it really this person, or am I not explaining it correctly to them? Am I not giving them enough attention? Am I prioritizing something else over them? You just really start to think about how you can contribute to it. Because I'm telling you, I really do think that once you get hold of that control again and realize how in control you are of these stressful situations, it's going to make a world of difference. I feel like you're going to feel lighter about it. You're going to feel less overwhelmed. And you're going to feel, again, that sense of control that you might really need.
Yeah, that is definitely helpful. And in addition, the one tip that I would highly recommend is if you really need to work on controlling your stress and giving yourself a mental break to prevent yourself from getting sick, like I've been trying to do the last couple of weeks, take a couple times during the day, just take like 2 minutes, literally 2 minutes, and just close your eyes and just focus on your breathing. And that's it. It's so simple, but yet so hard.
And can I say, be unapologetic about telling other people, like if you're working in an office space, like I have to take a 2-minute break and literally turn off your phone, turn off your notifications, like tell people that you just need the space so that you don't get interrupted, because I guarantee you're going to get mad at people when you get interrupted.
And the world is not going to end, which, believe me, I have to remind myself several times
every day.
That several times a day, that if I put my phone to the side, if I don't answer a text message right away, if I don't answer an email right away or a phone call, the world is not going to end. No. So if you're going through a period like we're going through that is incredibly stressful, take some time for yourself. Take like a couple times during the day, just 1, 2, or 3 minutes just to focus on your breath. And I promise you it will be helpful. So we hope these tips were helpful. We thank you for spending time with us, and we'll talk to you on the next episode.